Welcome back. The United Nations says despite the progress made on voter registration in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the country still faces challenges in election timeline. The body lists political uncertainty, lack of funds and a lack of respect for fundamental rights, amongst others, as some of the issues facing the country's election.
The notion that elections would most probably not be held before the end of 2017 has led to the re-emergence of a climate of political uncertainty and tension in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Congo's Electoral Commission said in a statement following a meeting with civil society representatives that it would need at least 504 days to organize the poll once voter registration is completed. Enrollment began in parts of Kasai, a region ravaged by insurrection, in mid-September, and it's expected to take about 3 months to complete, meaning the vote cannot be organized until April 2019 at the earliest. Congo's opposition suspects that President Joseph Kabila is trying to cling to power by postponing the elections until he can find a way to remove term limits that prevent him from standing for re-election as president in neighboring Rwanda and Congo Republic have done. Kabila, who took power after his father, Laurent Kabila, was assassinated in 2001, denies that and says the election delays are due to difficulties enrolling millions of voters and mobilizing hundreds of millions of dollars in financing. But opposition have warned that a delay in polls would cause an impatient population to take matters into its own hands. Congo has never experienced a peaceful transition of power, and Kabila's refusal to step down has fueled mounting insecurity across a country where millions died in regional conflicts between 1996 and 2003, most from hunger and disease.
And after failing to secure an outright majority in last week's presidential election in Liberia, 51-year-old George Weah will slog it out with 73-year-old Joseph Boakai in a face-off that promises to be intriguing. The political horse trading has already begun ahead of the November 7th runoff, that is, with both candidates trying to win over the 18 others they defeated.
Former football star George Weah and Vice President Joseph Boakai are headed for a runoff in Liberia's presidential election, as nearly all the results from Tuesday's poll have been counted.
Boakai have a total of 24,367 votes, representing 34.0% of the vote.
Mr. Weah, who is the first African to win the Ballon d'Or Football Award, is leading with 39%, while Mr. Boakai, the current vice president, is in second place with 29%.
Well, Mr. Chukwuemeka Eze joins us from Ghana via Skype. He's the Executive Director of the West African Network for Peace Building. Welcome to the program. Delving straight into the heart of the matter, the National Election Commission says the votes for Tuesday's elections has almost been counted, with Mr. Weah leading, while the incumbent Vice President, Mr. Boakai, in second place. Before now, a lot of people placed their bets on Mr. Weah, including his former coach, Arsene Wenger. But, you know, what are your thoughts on how we got here? Did the people vote for personalities or policies?
Well, I think first of all is that the Liberian politics is still riddled with elements of ethnicity. And if you look at the voting pattern, that's also reflected. But I think that the second thing is that George Weah is a very popular candidate, and a lot of people had a lot of enthusiasm on him, and also a couple of other considerations, including, of course, that most people were a bit tired of the current regime. But that notwithstanding, the Liberian election has always followed this pattern of runoff, and whenever that happens, we should not put all our bets on George Weah winning the election, because his popularity also has limitations where the political strategies of the politicians, the core politicians, begins.
Let's take a look at what both men stand for, starting with George Weah. Some say he's inexperienced in the politics of Liberia, but he disputes this, saying he's gained experience since becoming a senator in 2014. And then the vice president, Mr. Joseph Boakai, who has been tagged Sleepy Joe. Do you think that has had any impact on his duties as vice president, and will this be a factor in future votes?
Well, to an extent, yes. I think that George Weah might not again be described as being inexperienced. He has been a senator, and within that period of time, he also furthered his education. I think that also puts him in a better position to occupy the office of the presidency. But on the side of the vice president, yes, a lot of people have described him as a sleeping VP, but that notwithstanding, I think they are the core politicians, and therefore it depends on the negotiation they make with either Alexandra Comis or any of the key guys that contested for this election. If they do that, and in the past they have actually had a relationship with Prince Yomi Johnson, even though this period, Yomi Johnson is coming about 5th, which is very strange to a lot of people. And Nimba County seemed to be the highest populated area ahead of Mosarado, where George Weah had a lot of his votes. So it depends really on negotiation with other candidates, more than even what each of them brings to the table.
Mr. Eze, back to Mr. Weah again, who has chosen, ex-wife of Charles Taylor, Joe Howard Taylor, as his running mate. Was this a good choice, and do you think this would influence the runoff?
I think to a large extent, because what they are putting out there, which of course a lot of the voters are not aware of, that is not possible, is that if George Weah becomes the president with the ex-wife of Charles Taylor, that they will bring back Charles Taylor to Liberia. And whether you like it or not, Charles Taylor still have a lot of followership in Liberia. And secondly, George Weah being a core Liberian, and then the wife of Charles Taylor being American-Liberia, that also have effect on the type of voters they bring to the table. So that will be a factor.
Finally, what role do runners-up have to play in the runoff?
Well, again, I think it's also a way to stabilize the polity, because if outright announcements have been made, nobody knows how that will be taken. But I think this is the time for ECOWAS and other international community, including, of course, civil society organizations like WANEP, to begin to work ahead of the election to manage people's emotions and make them be ready for the outcome of the election and the results thereof.
So much, Mr. Chukwuemeka Eze, for joining us on Network Africa. An Egyptian woman is pushing boundaries in Alexandria as she engages in a profession usually reserved for men. Meet Maha Sabri, one of Africa's few female blacksmiths.
An Egyptian woman has broken into a long-established male profession and become one of Alexandria's few female blacksmiths. For the past 15 years, Maha Sabri has gradually learnt the skills needed for the laborious job. The skills needed for the tedious job, helping her husband in the workshop he worked for. Sabri's family was struck with financial difficulties, which pushed her to defy traditions and societal pressures and take on the work as a blacksmith. Many mocked Sabri for taking on such a role, but despite the pressure, she pushed on.
People first thought I was showing off or doing this for show. People do not know the circumstances surrounding other people's lives. Honestly, Al-Said encouraged me and did not care about what people were saying. He was helping me. People were making fun of me. But I answered them, try doing what I do.
She took breaks from her study to learn the trade with her husband, Fwazi. Sabri taught herself to weld, drill, and observe Swazi to learn the secrets of the profession.
And with all those tools, she's definitely not showing off. That's it on Network Africa. Many thanks for watching. I'm Millicent Walker.